everyone. We're running really late today, but I am so glad to have you. My name is Brittany Lewis. I'm a professional graphic designer and illustrator, tarot deck enthusiast, and all of the wonderful good things that come along with being a creative. And today is Sunday, my favorite day, the day that we work on the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So today we have a brand new card to get started with. It's been a day. I don't know if you guys have ever had like just a series of unfortunate events happen. That's been my life for the last while. Hey PL, thank you so much. Happy Mother's Day to you as well, and happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers who are watching. Now, before we begin, if there is something that you could do for me, I should rephrase that. If you would like to support this channel and support myself as an artist, there are a couple of ways that you can do that. The first, easiest, and quickest way is to hit the like button. That helps me out a whole lot, and that lets YouTube know that you enjoy the content and that you think other people will enjoy it as well. Another way that you can support myself as an artist, purchase artwork for yourself, so it's a win-win for everyone, is to go to my website, blewisarts.com. I am currently running a 20% off sale until the 17th, so until next Saturday. So everything in my shop is currently 20% off by using the code live20. So all of that will be linked down in the description. And I'll show you just a second what that looks like when you visit my shop. Now, this doesn't include free shipping, but it does include 20% off. So that's of everything, right? So that's journals, that's books, that's prints, that's poster prints, that's canvas prints, you name it. If it's in stock, it is 20% off. So I greatly appreciate that. If you're interested and want to pick up some of your favorite pieces, those are available now. And they usually ship out next day, except for the canvas prints, which do take a little bit of time to create and manufacture just for you. All right, so let's get into it. So I think we're okay so far. We're trying a new streaming platform. Everything seems to be very smooth so far. Again, thank you so much, PL, for the happy Mother's Day wishes, and happy Mother's Day to you as well. Now, the last couple of live streams that we've done where we've been able to speak to one another, we were working on the Three of Cups, and I do have the Three of Cups completed. So just in case you have not seen on social media, I would love to show you what that looks like, and I hope that the audio is coming in clear because we've had a few hiccups along the live stream timeline over the last few weeks where audio has not been great. So I'm hoping that it's clear today, but I would love to show you what the Three of Cups looks like. Now, when we started this card, we started from our development sheet, which we'll be revisiting in a little bit when we talk about the next card, but we started here, right? We developed the threes, we came up with our keywords, we came up with our thumbnails, and then from the thumbnail, I think the Three of Cups, I really didn't have a great idea of what I wanted. I just knew that I wanted to lean into like the Sacred Sister Circle type situation. And from there, we developed the Three of Cups, which now looks like this. So this is our coming of age ceremony. And there's so many different details and things like that that I've added just sort of over the course of the last few weeks of working on this particular piece. Now we'll zoom in just so you guys can have a good look, because if you've been here with me for a while, you have seen this image develop literally from start to finish. So as soon as it stops scrolling, there we go. So we have our grandmother figure, who is the crone. Now I did model her after the Queen of Wands from this tarot deck, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. We have the mother, who is the mother of the mother maiden and the crone. She has her sage stick. The crone, the grandmother, has her horsetail. We have our main character, who is sort of glowing, and we have the smoke from the sage, and we have sparkles and all kinds of goodies. I gave her the necklace from the Queen of Cups because one of the things that I do enjoy doing is using elements that I've already created and sprinkling them throughout the deck and throughout the project, because what that does is creates continuity, right? It creates a certain universe, it creates a look, and it makes sure that everything is consistent. And so this is what our main character looks like. I also gave her the bracelets that she's wearing comes from the High Priestess, which was the very first card that I created, and those were her necklaces. So I reused those into her bracelets. I think it came out really, really well. One aspect of this image that I really, really enjoy, and that's just me being an art nerd, is the splashes. The splashes and the sort of water drops and things like that that I added to their feet. And also just the way that the dress blends into the water. That was something that I was really proud of. That was one of those things that was a little bit of a happy accident. So I knew what I was after, but I wasn't really sure how to achieve it. And so I was able to just kind of make it work, right? And finally, our last character is the maiden character. And I'll zoom in just so you guys can see some of the details in it as well, because I spent quite a bit of time. Well, no, I won't say quite a bit of time. I did spend a little bit of time on her hair wrap, which I really enjoy. Her clothes. This was during one of the Bring Your Own Project live streams where we just listen to music and work. But I just really enjoy. I'm really satisfied with how this picture and how this image turned out. So this is the Three of Cups of the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. So I'm super excited about it. Glad to have it done. I think last Wednesday worked on the Three of Pentacles. So I finished that up. We got the sketch ready for that. Next week, what I'll probably do during the Bring Your Own Project stream is just sort of work on thumbnailing and developing the fours, which will be the next set of cards. So that again, I can get a bit of a jump start on certain things so that we could just jump right into drawing. Don't have to spend so many weeks developing the cards and, showing you that part of the process. So this is the Three of Cups. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It was one of my definitely one of the most satisfying cards that I've developed so far. I'm really happy to have it done. Now, just a sneak peek and a reminder, I guess you guys have seen, we are working today on the Three of Swords. Now, the Three of Swords speaks a lot about pain, heartbreak, and sorrow, conflict, and all of those kinds of things. And my initial idea was to have this be sort of someone squeezing an anatomical heart. Just to make life easier for myself, I decided to, instead of using the anatomical heart, I decided to use sort of like a heart pincushion. And I did this because I wanted to lean into the idea of the pain, the sorrow, the suffering, but I wanted it to feel like it was at the hands of someone else. I also wanted this to feel a little bit like a ritual. So think in terms of like voodoo doll, that kind of thing, right? So I wanted to create this sort of tension within this piece. So the hand is huge, the heart is huge, it's taking up most of the card because I wanted this to feel like a very suffocating piece. So today what we're going to be doing is just tightening up the sketch. I have a good preliminary sketch here. I'm just going to be redrawing over it, and if all goes well, because I'm not really sure how smooth things will go in this new streaming platform, but if things go well, then what we'll do is lay down the flats and then we'll go from there. So I really like the idea of this. It was something that it had been on my mind for a while. Again, I wanted the feeling of the pain and the sorrow to feel like it was happening at the behest of someone else. And I used sort of a female's hand with like the long stiletto nails, the whole thing, just because I felt like it gave a much more dramatic effect, right? But again, I just wanted it to feel painful, right? I think doing the anatomical heart again would have been a really cool idea, and I think it probably would have came together really nicely, but I just didn't want to put that much pressure on myself to get the heart right. So I was like, well, let me just do it as a pin cushion, wrap it in twine, and then make it feel as though it's actually being squeezed. So that's what we're doing today. Again, I hope that you all are having a good day. So whether you're watching this live or the replay, I really appreciate you for being here. And we're just going to go over this. So what I've done is just to sort of show you what I have. I actually did a reference picture. So typically what happens is as I'm coming up with ideas, I'll have an idea in my mind. And what I will do is sort of try to find references to support that idea. Sometimes I can find exactly what I'm looking for. Sometimes I can find things close enough to what I'm looking for that I can sort of just use, tidbits of information from those images to create whatever it is that I want. Sometimes I create the references myself. So this is a case of me creating, and excuse my desk in this image, but this is the instance of me creating the image for this myself, right? Because again, the idea was to have that anatomical heart at first. So I just used like a pair of socks, right? A pair of wool socks, because they were nice and thick, about the size of someone's heart. And I squeezed it as best I could. And then when I went into drawing this particular image, I just sort of exaggerated some aspects of the picture, right? All right, so we're going to be using this a bit, but also we're going to be using my imagination and just sort of going with the flow to see where it is or what happens. Now, when I was drawing this, one of the only challenges I had was this finger, this particular finger, only because I guess the way that I had was holding the heart or holding the pair of socks in my hand, it made it a little bit difficult to sort of draw the exaggerated nails and things like that. So we'll see. I'll kind of play around with that. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then it is what it is. I want to make sure that I have something completed so that we can move on and get these next 40 plus or less cards done and on to the next thing. All right, so without further ado, again, I'm just going to be retracing this. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and merge. Let's see, so this is the base with the fingers and the heart itself, and then I did a little bit of a draw over. So what I'm going to do just to make life easier for myself is I am going to merge all of these sketches because I don't really have to have them here. So let's merge these. I do have my I have my hand, the socks references in here. I'm going to take that out because I don't need it. And then I am just going to grab a pencil and I am going to lower the opacity, which means change the lightness and darkness of this thing. So I'm just lowering it so you don't see it as strongly. And then on top of this, I am going to draw, right? All right, so let's put this into practice and hope for the best. Yeah, okay, there we go. So I'm just going to sort of tighten this up a bit. I do want to exaggerate more of the string, so I want to be a little more intentional about it and how the cushion is affected by the pull of the string, so that again it feels very tight, very heavy, very consuming, right? So I'm going to start here. And again, I'm just sort of looking to exaggerate a bit some of these curves and things like that so that it feels tight, right? And because this finger is a little weird for me, what I might do is raise the crease of the heart up a little bit. I'm not really sure. We'll play around with it and see. But I do want it to feel tight, right? So again, I hope you all are having a great day. I hope that you called your mama today. If you have a wife, I hope that you celebrated her, children, and all that. I hope that you all are having a wonderful Mother's Day this day. Mine has been going pretty well, aside from some technical difficulties. Again, I don't know if you guys have ever in your life just had a series of unfortunate events where it feels like no matter what you do, something is there's going to be a hiccup along the way. That has been my life of late. And I don't know exactly why. It is, some of it has been so ridiculous that it's kind of comical, because it's like, please come on. You know, it's like, for the love of all things, let's get it together, right? But I think when you have moments like this, it's okay to feel frustration. Goodness knows I have felt it a lot. But I think the main thing is to just sort of breathe and get through it, and hope for the best. So if we had to cancel today, then I would have canceled today. I wouldn't have wanted to, but if it had come to that, I would have done it, and then just rescheduled the stream. But we've been canceling a lot, and I didn't want to do that. So if we were late today, then we were just late today. All right, so here where we have sort of the pull of the string, I did again exaggerate the raise of the cushion just a bit, right? Just to sort of get that squeeze look. I think I'll probably do the same thing here, just so that it feels, again, really, really tight and really, really heavy. Again, this is a card that deals a lot with sorrow, very much synonymous with heartbreak. The swords, though, are a card of the mental, right? So of the mind, of your thoughts, of sort of creating your reality from your thoughts. And so if we have our heart here, typically with your emotions, we like to assign that to the cups, but this is a swords card, right? So we want to play up the idea. We want to make sure that we emphasize the swords. In this case, they're going to be needles, but I think that adds a very interesting sort of dimension to this card, because again, we associate it with heartbreak, we associate it with sorrow, but it is a mental card. Right? So it is a card about how those things affect the mind, or how your mind sort of affects how you feel about those things. But I did want to, again, put it place this heart in the hand of someone else, because when we experience heartbreak, it's usually at the hand of someone else's actions or of our expectations of how a person should behave and how they should treat and honor you and all of those things. And those expectations being sort of not met, right? Just to put it lightly. So I wanted this to feel like it was, as opposed to our source material, which is just a heart with 3 swords, and I'll show you that just a second. It's just a heart, 3 swords, and some clouds, right? I wanted to invite more story. I wanted to invite a different, or sort of more fleshed out perspective to this card, which we do a lot, right? We definitely did it with the 3 of Cups, and we're going to do that with the 3 of Swords as well. So I'm just again tightening up this sketch, just sort of making it feel pretty much as close to how it's going to look once it's completed, right? So I want to make sure that I have all of the details that I want to share in this and all of the things, so that I don't have to guess when it's time to add color and texture and things like that to it. I want to be able to work out all of the kinks. And for the most part, I did that in the blue stage, in the part that I'm sort of tightening up. Kind of worked out the bulk of those decisions and made the bulk of those decisions. And so now I'm just making it a lot more exaggerated and a lot more, final, I guess. All right. So anywhere that I have a rope, or sort of like the indication of some string, I am making sure to exaggerate the lumps and the bumps of this cushion, right? And again, that is to emphasize the fact that it's being squeezed, right? We want to make sure that it feels like these ropes or this string is suffocating this heart. And I wanted to add more to it, so we'll see if it's too much, but we'll sort of work that out in this stage. But yeah, I like this card. I had the idea of doing the heart when I told my son. He was like, but why? I was like, but I think that would be really interesting to do the anatomical heart. But I think the cushion just was just less work for me, right? I didn't have to figure out how to make the heart fit in the hand or any of that. And I kind of get a lot more creative license when it comes to that. So typically if you're doing something that's based on a real thing, you have to get it as close to that real thing as you can. Even if you were sort of exaggerating and stylizing it and all of those things, you want to make sure that you're getting it as close to what it's supposed to be as possible. So for me, who's, sort of ready to have this project done, I kind of have to pick my battles, right? So I have to decide what is worth investing the time and getting the anatomy right in, and what's not, right? In this particular case, I really didn't think it was worth spending a whole lot of time trying to figure out what a heart looks like and what it'll look like in this particular scenario and all of that. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to at all. So in order to make life easier for myself, I was like, well, what would it be what would it look like, or what might it look like if I used sort of a pin cushion and leaned into sort of the ritualistic aspect of this person crushing, this heart. And so here we are. I thought it was a really cool idea, especially coming off of the heels of the 3 of Cups, which is highlighting a coming of age ceremony or ritual. And I thought that this would be a really fun play on, a ritual of sorts as this person is crushing the heart of whoever she is crushing the heart, or whoever they are crushing the heart of. All right, so again, we have sort of the string here, so I'm going to exaggerate a little bit this bump and curve so that it feels as if it's being sort of squeezed in. So this was really, really fun card to do the initial sketch for as well, because again, I'm not aiming for reality except for the hand, right? And so being able to just sort of draw this wonky shape, and exaggerate it as much as I felt like exaggerating had offered quite a bit of freedom, I will say. All right, so we have this coming over here. So we might again come back to this side. and I'm just rotating the canvas. And for those of you who are interested, I am working in Clip Studio Paint. This is version 1. I love Clip Studio Paint for a number of reasons. A number of reasons. I am definitely team Clip Studio Paint. And I'm also working on the desktop, right? So I think sometimes we see a lot of people work on the iPads. I'm working on the desktop in Clip Studio, and I'm using version 1, and I like it because, again, I've coming from Photoshop, so I used to do all of my digital paintings. If you go through this channel, there are tons of videos of me doing digital paintings. They're all pretty much done in Photoshop, right? And so coming from Photoshop into Clip Studio was a relatively easy transition. I don't think at the time that I was coming out, yes, it was. I was going to say, I don't think Procreate was that heavy or that popular, but it was because I remember someone recommending it to me back in 2017. But I didn't have an iPad at that time. And at the time that I started using Clip Studio, I don't think I had gotten one around that time either, right? So I just went on and switched to the desktop version of Clip Studio Paint, and I like it. I really like it a lot. Of course, with any program, there is a little bit of a learning curve, but I feel like with practice, with application, things do get a lot easier. I was asked once before if I thought that switching to Clip Studio made me faster. I would not say that it does. I think just practice in general, makes you faster. I don't think it's not it's not like a miracle program, right? So you still have to do a little bit of work and still have a little bit of knowledge about digital art in general. But I think that it is a really solid option. Again, I'm working in version 1. There are 4 versions of this program at this point. So it is really, really nice. And one of the things that I like about Clip Studio a lot is the fact that they have the 3D models built into the program. So for instance, Wednesday when we were doing the Bring Your Own project stream, I was having a really, really tough time getting the anatomy right of the 3 characters that I was creating. And I'll show you what that looks like here. I'll show you what it looks like. So the 3D models. So as I was sort of trying to get these characters right, I went on and posed them with the models. I was able to sort of give myself a baseline and then of course correct anything that needed to be corrected through my own knowledge of drawing, right? So here are the models that I was able to create, and these are fully able, each one of these is able to be articulated. So what I did was I laid down my sketches from the live stream. I laid down my sketches. So this was as part of the sketch that I did during the Bring Your Own Project live stream. From there, I put my models on top and sort of posed them in a way that got close enough to what I was trying to articulate with those sketches. And from that, I was able to go ahead and actually draw, because now I have the poses and I have the anatomy right enough so that I can go ahead and create and finish up the drawing for the next card. And I'll show you what that looks like here. Now this card is the 3 of Pentacles, which is an idea that came from my son, which I thought was such a great idea, right? And I keep giving him credit, one, because he doesn't want me to, and I think it's my job just to sometimes do what he don't want me to do. But he actually really deserves credit, and if you do artwork and things like that, you deserve credit as well. But I am absolutely going to give him credit for this because I thought it was such a great idea. So his idea was to, instead of having them build something in the 3 of Pentacles, which is typically what you will see the 3 Pentacles. You'll see a person working on, they're building a cathedral. So each person in that scene has a job. You have the monk, you have the architect, you have the builder. In this case, we decided to use the Pentacles as stars, right? And so we have one person who is gazing through the telescope at the Pentacle stars, right? We have another person pointing, and then we have one person sort of charting those stars. And I thought that was such a creative idea, and I was so excited and happy to have him participate in this project that it really made my heart smile. So I wanted to do justice by him and by his idea. Again, when I was doing this Wednesday and trying to get the sketches and things like that, it was not coming together. So I was able to use those 3D models that Clip Studio has. And again, I'm using version 1. So if version 1 has 3D models, I can't imagine how good the 3D models are in like version 4, which should be really, really good, right? So yeah, so Clip Studio is definitely a program that I recommend for, especially if you're working on the desktop. Now I do know that they have a iPad version of Clip Studio Paint. I've never used the iPad version, so I cannot in good faith recommend it. I don't know. You know what I mean? So you have to sort of do your own research on whether or not it is a good program. I have no idea. I just know that the desktop version works really well. It is a perpetual license, which means that you're not paying for a subscription, but they do have the option for a subscription. So for instance, I am working in version 1, but if I wanted to get like the upgrades to whichever new version is coming out, I think it's like $28 or something like that for the year. I don't need it, right? And I feel like there's no real reason for me to spend that on something that I don't really need, right? But that is an option, and then that option is available to you if you are interested in it, right? Otherwise, you can buy the you can buy the license for the program and just do a one-time payment thing, just like Procreate, where you pay I think it was like $30 for Procreate. So exactly the same way Procreate works, where you just pay for one license and you're done. Another great program that I love to use in the graphic sort of post-production part of this is Affinity. So Affinity is the programs that I use instead of Adobe for all of my graphic design things. And that's not just the Cosmic Gateways Tarot, but any like graphic design assignment that I get, I use Affinity. And I like Affinity because Affinity will read Adobe files, which is really nice. And it will allow you to export SVGs, every file format that you could possibly imagine that is synonymous with graphic design, except for I think the AI, the PSD. I think it'll let you do PSD because Clip Studio will let you export a PSD file as well. But it will allow you to export files and things like that. Hey, Black Zetsu, I'm happy to see you. It'll allow you to export files and things like that relatively easily so that you can go between projects. So if you are into graphic design and things like that, and someone is sending you an Adobe file, you can still open that Adobe file in Affinity. So when it's time for me to finish up a card, what I will do is we'll go through. Thank you, Black Zetsu. Black Zetsu says Happy Mother's Day to everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Once I finish a card, so going back to like the Three of Cups that we just finished over the last couple of weeks, once I do that, what I will do is I will export that card from Clip Studio at the full size, which I work double size, and I work at a huge DPI, which means a dots per inch or something like that. I work at a huge resolution, right? So I will export that card, bring it into Affinity, do any color modifications and things like that, because I tend to work extremely dark when it comes to Cosmic Gateways Tarot, and that's really just a byproduct of how bright my screen is. So it's very difficult sometimes for me to see how dark things are, but I will take that. I will take it into Affinity, make any adjustments I need, do any and all of my graphic design, the border, the numbers, all of that, have templates developed for that, and then I will export it and get it ready for print. So they sort of work really nicely in tandem. With the Three of Cups, I had an issue. This was like the first time I'd ever had this issue, and I think it's because of the size of the Three of Cups file, because it is a huge file. Each sort of stroke adds to the size of the file, right? So it's a huge file. I was having trouble exporting the time lapse, which was causing it to crash, right? And not only was it causing it to crash, but because of the size of the file, I was having a hard time saving it. And that is extremely scary, right? So you spent, I think I calculated 12 weeks worth of live streams on this one card. So I worked on this card for a very long time. So as I'm working on this and I'm now not able to save it, right? It's very, very scary. Two things happened. Clip Studio will auto save your files, which is beautiful. It is so wonderful. It is such a great feature. So it auto saved your file, but even when I was opening up the auto saves, it would just not, for whatever reason, would not allow me to save this as a Clip Studio file. Here's what came in handy for me. This was the second thing. I was able to save it as a Photoshop file. So I was able to export it with all of the layers, with all of the colors, with all of the information as a PSD file. And that was a lifesaver, because then I was able to go back and, save it as my Clip Studio file. So I love Clip Studio, man. I really do. I'm a fan of the product. I'm a fan of their pricing structure. It seems very fair pricing. I'm a fan of the no subscription unless you want it, right? I love that. So if you are, again, a digital artist, if you're looking to get into digital art, I recommend Clip Studio. Now, I learned about it just from watching some of my peers create in it and create artwork that I thought was wonderful quality wise. And I didn't see them miss a beat, in terms of the quality, because of course they had the skill set, but also because it seemed to be a good product, right? So I am Team Clip Studio. They have not given me reason to not enjoy it. And so if you are looking for a desktop specific, and again, they do have an iPad version. I am not familiar with iPad version, so I cannot, again, in good faith, recommend that one because I've never used it. But the desktop version is nice. It's really, really nice. I am a fan of it, and it works really, really well for the things that I need to do. And I've done everything from the Cosmic Gateways Tarot to like actual portraits. Any of the digital portraits that you've seen me create. I think the last one was the Baron Samedi Dia de los Muertos. What am I trying to say? Fusion image. That one was done in this Clip Studio Paint. So I've been using it off and on for about, I would say, since 2019, because I started this project in Clip Studio. So that was when I began to work in Clip Studio. I began to work in Affinity, I would say probably around the same time. I want to say within like 2020, because I remember having Affinity Designer, which is the Adobe Illustrator sort of equivalent. And then, so I had that only, right? And then during the pandemic, they offered like deals for creatives, which I felt was wonderful, right? So I was able to get all of the other two programs that comes with Affinity Designer. And it works out well. So if you're looking for digital work, I highly recommend Clip Studio. If you're looking for graphic design programs, I would highly recommend Affinity. Right? All right. So it looks like we're doing really well. I do have an intersection between my nails and my needles, so I'm going to create a mask in my original sketch layer for the needles. Not the needles, for the hand and the heart. I'm just going to clear out some of this. Now I'm doing this in a layer mask because if I decide that I don't like the placement of this needle, I don't want to have to redraw the part that I just erased. So all I would have to do is just paint that back in, and all is well with the world. Right? So it works out really, really nicely for me. And I could just erase and take away the things that I don't need right now. And it is a sort of temporary thing until you make it permanent. I like how this looks so far. What I will add to it is I would like to add a string that goes between the needles and between each needle, so they intertwine together. And then I will add some stitching. And I think, how long have we been going? So I don't know if we have time today. We do? Okay, good. We're making plenty good time. So I think the next thing that I will do after I sort of get these details in is I will go ahead and begin to lay the flats. And again, the flats are just my base layer colors. This helps me make that sort of decision early on, so that when it's time for me to add details, and all I have to do is just come back and add the details. Now, there is something that I would like. I want these hands to look super wicked. Let me just put it out there. That's how I want these hands to look. I want them to look super wicked, right? So I kind of want the nails. I don't know if you've ever seen I don't know the lady's name. It's a fashion lady, I believe, in Hollywood, that has like the long black stiletto nails where like her fingers go black too, as if they've been dyed. Everything's been dyed in henna. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it looks like. That's sort of where I would like to go with this. I do think this is going to be, again, a very dark card, but I don't know if I'm going to go blue with a dark or if I want to go gray with a dark. But I do want this to be a very dark card. I am debating also, because the original source material has clouds in them, perhaps giving her a cloud tattoo. So just to show you where the original sort of reference image for this that I took, right? And again, excuse my desk in this picture, because my desk tends to be a catch-all. And on this day, it was definitely a catch-all. But where I have my tattoo here, on her wrist, I kind of want to add a cloud tattoo to my character, just sort of as a nod to just sort of a nod to the original source material. The type of cloud that I would like to do is like the one that looks like this. Let me see if I can draw it in real quick for you. So it's like, but it's like this, and then it goes something like this. That's sort of what I would like to do. I don't know yet. Like the Akatsuki clouds. I don't know, for you guys that watch Naruto. Like the clouds on their robes. I think that would be really nice. So we'll see. Of course, I don't want to do copyrighted material, so it'll be very much inspired by that, but not quite the same thing. So, okay, so what we'll do now is, now that I have sort of the baseline of everything, what I'm going to do is go ahead and add the flats. So I'm going to put all of this into a folder, which is what I love to do when it's time for me to start working on the details. I'm going to label this folder sketches. I like to do this because sometimes you can sort of come back and make changes to the sketches and things like that. For example, I just realized before we get to the color, there's some information that I would like to add to this. So what I will do is go ahead and add that, and then add that in, and then we'll get to the color, right? So I have these sort of stitches that are happening along the side of the cushion, right? Because I want it to feel like it's been sewn. I want it to feel like it's been put together. I actually had debated before even sort of taking a chance and drawing this, creating a cushion, right? So that I would have a very accurate model, but I just was like, okay, well, let me try it first, and then if it works out, then we'll go from there. Now, when it comes time for me to actually draw this, I think I'll probably have like loose threads and things like that all around, because again, I want this to feel like something that this person made for the purpose of crushing whoever's heart she is sort of crushing. But sometimes heartbreak can feel like that, right? Sometimes when you're going through, we talked a little bit about having sort of the unfortunate events happen, which is what I have been experiencing lately. Sometimes it feels like somebody else is doing it, right? Sometimes we want to sort of put that on other people, as opposed to sort of looking at it from as a reflection of what's going on within yourself. I want this to feel like that. I want this to feel like somebody else is responsible for this, right? For this feeling, for all of this, even though we know that the swords is a very mental, very, the things that are happening within your mind kind of card, right? So sometimes when we experience things like that, we can make it worse just by sort of how we react and respond to those feelings. Okay, so what did I just do? I want this to go under, and then I want this to go over. So I will, which one do I want to go over? Yeah, there we go, like this. So we'll erase the parts that we did. Again, I did this in the mask just in case I don't like it. And I think that that's good. All right, so from here, I'm going to take my whole folder and I'm going to change the blend mode to multiply. This helps because what it does is it'll make sure that it blends within whatever I put underneath it. Because we had our blue sort of already pared down or sort of toned down, you barely see the blue, but you do see the information that we want to see, which is the dark colored sketch. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do now is add the background. I'm going to label that BG for background. I'm going to grab a paint bucket tool, and then from here, I do believe I want to go gray. We're going to try gray for now and then see how well I like it. I'm going to go with a cooler gray. Again, we sort of want to go on the side of dark. But because my screen is so bright, sometimes I do not know how dark things are until I go into post-production, because I can see it a little bit better in Affinity. But so far that looks fine. That'll do it. And then from here, we're just going to label each little thing that we're going to be coloring individually. From the back forward, right? So thinking of this as like a layered cake, and I do have a video on flats just in case you need further explanation, but we're thinking about this as a sort of stack of pancakes, like a Big Mac or whatever, where we're starting from the bottom and we're working our way forward, right? So the background is the furthest back on this canvas. Everything else is going to sort of sit on top of the background. So the first thing that we have on top of the background is going to be the skin, but the skin also sort of intersects with the cushion. So I could do the cushion, I could do the skin. I'm going to do the skin first because her wrist here is sort of behind the cushion. And then this part here is sort of behind. So we'll sort of work it out. Actually, what I think I might do is do the heart and then order them in a way where the skin is underneath. So we'll try that and we'll see. All right, so I'm just going to grab the red from the original and I'm going to tweak it just a bit. I think what I would like is something also quite dark for this. And there are a couple of ways I can approach this. I can use my lasso tool, which will probably make quick work of this. I am a fan of just painting it in. Why? I don't know. The lasso tool is nice, but with it, I tend to have to clean it up anyway. So I think sometimes if I hadn't painted in a while, brushing in the color just sort of helps me get loose. So what I'll do is switch from my paint bucket tool over to my brush. And I use Hotline. This is a brush that I get from the artist Eric Anthony. From here, I will brush in, there we go, the colors. And then we will get the next sort of thing done, which I do believe is going to be the skin. So I think the skin, I'm going to have it sit underneath the heart. Even because I'm doing that, I'm not going to paint like I could paint here. And if I was putting the skin above the heart, it wouldn't matter because we're painting that in. But because I'm going to be placing the skin beneath the heart, I do want to be conscious about how I color this in. I kind of want to go around the fingers. Everything else I could sort of paint wherever, kind of willy-nilly, like underneath the rope, underneath the twine. None of that matters because that is going to eventually sit on top. Right? So when you're creating flats specifically, and it's not necessary to do flats, I'll say that this is just sort of what makes life easier for me as a digital artist. You can actually go in and do all the details one by one. I like to do the flats because it helps me sort of create a good color story, and it helps me to be able to make decisions about color and mood and tone and things like that ahead of time, and then from there I could just add the details as I go, right? Because let's say, for instance, I have this gray background and I'm painting in this red heart. The red and the gray may not look good together, right? But before I add all these details, before I sort of get into the thick of fleshing out and rendering out this image, by laying flats, it allows me to sort of make sure it is at least on the baseline level where I would like for it to be. All right, so we're just going to color this in. And again, I want this card is one item, right? Is the heart. Well, I guess two items, the heart and the hand, the twine, more than two. But this is sort of one aspect of a person's body and it's taking up the entire card, right? So I do want to make sure I wanted to make sure as I was drawing out this card, as I was designing the composition and sort of deciding how big or small I wanted things to be, I wanted to keep in mind that there's going to be a border. I wanted to keep in mind that things will be cut off with the bleed, and I wanted it to feel suffocating, right? So the square that we're looking at is a little bit bigger. We have a little more room on it than we will have once this is a final card. So I wanted to keep all of that in mind, right? As I told the story of this being a heartbreak sort of suffocating card, right? I wanted to make sure that I lean into the emotion of what pain and sorrow feels like by filling up the space, right? So we will go back to our 3 of Cups. It doesn't really fill up the space. And I'll pull that up for you guys to see. It might take a bit. Let's see. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's look at we'll do that. We'll do the 3 of Cups, I think. Yeah. So I'll just sort of compare the two compositions for you so you can kind of see what I mean. So within the 3 of Cups, we have a lot of action going on, but there's so much open space around the figures and the action and the things that are happening, right? Within the 3 of Swords, I don't want that. I don't want as much white space. I want this to feel like it is a very heavy card because the emotion that's behind the card, the thoughts that are behind the emotions are very heavy thoughts and feelings, right? So I want to just sort of compare that for you really quickly and go from there. Let's see, we're going to wait on it to come up. So it may be a bit, because it is a large file. I probably should have kept it open, but it is so big that I didn't want to take up too much space. So as it comes up, we will do that. So again, I hope you guys are having a good Mother's Day. I hope that you are celebrating the women in your life, and giving them a break. That would be nice. I think we all would love to have a break every once in a while. So I hope that you all are doing well. So if you are watching this live or the replay, I really appreciate you for being here. Now, while we're waiting on this to open, I do want to remind you that right now my website is running a 20% off sale off of everything on the site in terms of like the shop. So if you like some of this artwork, if you want to add some to your collection, if you want to set up yourself some altars or the sacred spaces, or you just want it as decor for your home, all of everything from canvas prints to journals is currently 20% off right now. I do have the code and the links and everything down in the description. So please be sure to grab you something. Every time I get an order, I do a happy dance. I swear to goodness I do. I grab my son and me and him do a happy dance. I go high five my husband like, whoop. And we do that. So if you are interested in any of the work, now I do not have the Three of Cups up yet. If that is something that you're interested in purchasing, like a print or canvas print for, just let me know and I can make that happen for you. But for right now, most everything is there. So those links and everything will be down in the description below. All right. So now if we're looking at the Three of Cups, there is a lot of space around them, right? There's space beneath them in the water. There's space in the sky. There's space, on all sides of them. They're not taking up the whole card, right? They're sitting sort of center stage because the ceremony that they're performing is the main attraction, right? We want to see them, but they're not feeling as, it doesn't feel as though they're occupying this entire sort of space that they're in, right? Now, with the Three of Swords, because of the feeling associated with this card and associated with its common meaning, I wanted it to fill up the card, right? I wanted it to suffocate. I wanted it to feel uncomfortable. I wanted it to take up a whole lot of space because the feeling behind this card tends to take up a lot of space in our psyches, right? Again, this card deals with sorrow and pain and heartbreak and all of those things. And so when I was creating the sort of layout for this, or thinking about how big or small I wanted certain things to be, how tightly I wanted the squeeze to feel on this particular pincushion, I took all of that into consideration. And so again, we're telling sort of a story in the way that we create and communicate certain meanings of different cards, because tarot is a very visual medium, right? A lot of readers read intuitively, meaning that they read based on how a card makes them feel, based on the first words or phrases that come to their mind, right? So that is a thing that happens. There are also common interpretations, because the Rider-Waite-Smith deck specifically is probably one of the most researched and written about decks or systems, I should say, that there is. I wanted to make sure that not only am I creating like my own unique set of images for the most part, I still want the new reader to be able to study and use the information that is available, as well as their intuition as they're reading these cards. So that is the responsibility I feel as someone who cares about what they do, right? Like, I love what I do, and I love being able to create this project, because I say this every Sunday, this is definitely a dream project for me. So in that, though, I am keeping in mind that this is also to be a consumer product. So I have to keep in mind the user of this particular product, and I want to make sure that they are having a pleasant reading experience and are getting the messages that are intended to be received, right? Whether that is through the art, right? Whether that's intentionally through the art, or whatever message is intended to be received from their actual reading session for whoever they're, reading for and with, right? All right, so I do that by just sort of taking into consideration the stories, right? Creating stories where I may not have any. Again, with the Three of Pentacles, when my son and I were discussing it, and I was like, you know what, Kansu, that's the same. Kansu, you know what? I'm trying to figure out this card, and I go through this whole thing. And he was like, well, why don't you do this, this, and this? And I thought that was a great idea. And so we were able to brainstorm a story together so that, we have a pleasant reading experience, again, for the new reader, for the advanced reader, for the intermediate reader that picks up this particular deck. Now, just a little bit of color theory here. Now, this looks like a relatively neutral middle tone red, right? But if I were to turn off this gray layer, this looks extremely dark. This also helps because now I can kind of see where I did not get opaque enough in my coloring, right? And I'm not reaching for perfection here. I'm just trying to lay down my flats. And again, there are a couple of ways that we can go through doing this. I could have easily used the lasso tool or the selection tool in order to fill this space in. I didn't want to, right? That's really the only reason that I chose not to. I just didn't want to. I like the idea of sort of brushing this in because you do get these slight inconsistencies in the color, which adds dimension sometimes to the finished product. All right, so I'm going to turn that background layer back on because everything is going to sort of go along those lines. I'm going to clean this up just a little bit, not a whole lot today. When I get into adding details to this card next Sunday, we will clean this up even more where we may need to, right? But I'm just going to clean this up as best I can just to give myself a little less work later on so that we can make sure that we're getting, what we need to get out of this illustration. So again, I wanted to go with like the blacked out nails and like the coordinating henna skin to go with this because I want this to feel heavy. I want them nails to feel super sinister. I don't know why, I just feel like it should. And we're gonna see how that goes. But for the time being, what I am going to do is just select a middle ground brown, something like this. Maybe add a little more warmth to it, something like that. And then what I might actually do from here is I might actually go ahead and use my selection tool just to sort of show you what that looks like. So I'm just gonna outline a roundabout shape. It doesn't have to be anything special or anything like that. And I'm going to grab a paint bucket and I'm just going to drop this color in. There we go, like so. And this has absolutely no dimension or anything like that to it. They're just flats, right? And I can do the same thing here. Now, because we have the heart on top of the nails, on top of this particular skin layer, I don't have to be super precious about how I outline this because whatever's on top is going to block out the excess anyway. And that's sort of why why we set this up this way, just to make life a little bit easier for myself. Now, this is going to create some really sharp lines, just like I cleaned up the red within the nails. I can do the same thing just by sort of cleaning those shapes and things up. I won't worry too much about that right now. And I'm just going to drop that in. There we go. Easy, right? And I can do the same thing up at the top, but I think because it's, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. Get this lasso tool out. And I can go all up under this red. It's not going to matter because the red is sitting on top, right? Just like so. And anywhere where I see sort of some gaps and spaces, I can take my brush and just sort of brush those in up against that red. And it'll fill all that in. So that looks good enough for me right now. So the next thing I would like to do is I would actually like to put the string on. Now, the skin is the second bottommost layer, right? So if I paint this string on, it's actually going to show up on top of the skin, but what I'll do is just sort of erase it. The reason why it's wonky and weird like that is because of where we have the heart placed. I don't feel like rearranging anything, so just to make myself have an easier time, I'm just going to paint and then erase. All right, actually might even lasso some of this in. Let's see if it's gonna work. Nope. All right, we're gonna brush it in then. So I'm gonna lower my opacity on this. I'm gonna raise the brightness just a bit. I don't necessarily want a gray, something like that will do. And you can just brush this in like so, and we'll add braids and details and things like that to the string a little bit later as I see fit. But I'm just gonna draw this in like so. And again, I'm not really reaching for perfection or anything like that. I'm just sort of laying down the base tone colors, and then I can actually go back and adjust any colors where I feel like they may need to be adjusted. For instance, the gray of this string is getting a little close to the gray of the background. So we want to sort of keep an eye on that. Because we do want a little bit of contrast. But again, we're going to be adding details to this, so it may change anyway. But by doing flats, I can kind of make those changes early on before I start adding details and things like that, because the changing process will be just a little more challenging, right? It'll offer a little more challenges than just painting it in flat and changing the colors as I go. Again, I'm not reaching for perfection here. I just saw a video recently about art going through an ugly stage, right? My art absolutely goes through an ugly stage, where it's not perfect. It doesn't. I'm not even trying to be perfect, right? I'm trying to be as loose and free and have as much fun as I can, and laying down baseline information, and then we'll come back and tighten it up later, right? I don't want to be so sort of bogged down by trying to make it perfect, trying to make it, trying not to make mistakes and things like that. Because if you do that, you sort of mitigate the opportunity for happy accidents. And I have a ton of happy accidents happen, right? Just by allowing myself to be free in my artwork, right? So I highly encourage that. From anyone who is looking to create, don't reach for perfection just yet. Just sort of lay stuff down, put it, see how you like it, and you can always tweak it and work on it until you're happy and satisfied with it. But to do that early on, just to sort of bog yourself down with details and things like that, a lot of times is you're going to work yourself up where you really don't need to, right? Just to sort of enjoy the process. And having sort of an ugly stage to the art is definitely a part of the process. It happens. Now, if you were here with me Wednesday, one of the things that was happening was, again, I was having a really hard time nailing down the proportions of the characters for the Three of Pentacles. So because of that, I was struggling. I was struggling for a good hour and a half, or however long I was on live. I was struggling the entire time, right? But I just sort of allowed myself to play with it. And if it worked out, it worked out. If it didn't, it didn't. I was able to then, after the fact, use what I had done, use information that I had put in place to create the 3D models. And then I was able to make a better sort of representation of what I was going for. So just allow yourself to enjoy the process. This is art, right? This is being creative. It doesn't have to be perfect right out the gate. Now, that is something that I used to do a lot. I used to spend time, worrying too much about whether or not it was absolutely perfect, whether or not I was representing whatever I was creating to the best of my ability, as opposed to just creating, right? So we definitely don't want to worry too much about the details. Not right now, anyway. Now, I don't foresee this one being a very long card, so I am happy to have the Three of Pentacles ready to go. So next week I will be working on the fours. So that's the Four of Pentacles, the Four of Swords, Four of Cups, and the Four of Wands. With the fours, one thing that I have noticed, just sort of interpreting them and thinking about all of the interpretations together, is they do have a lot to do with sort of a state of being, right? So your Four of Swords, for instance, has to do with resting. And your Four of Cups has to do with apathy, sort of disconnecting. I think I've seen meditation in that card, just sort of separating yourself from, things, right? You have the Four of Wands, which deals with home and celebration and all of that. And then who am I missing? The Four of Pentacles, which I always read as a greed card. I don't know why. That card reminds me of being greedy, right? But I think greedy comes from, I think I saw Jen Sincero in her book. What is that book called? You Are a Badass with Money. She says, and I had never thought about this before, but it made so much sense. She was like, greed is the same energy as lack. And it makes a lot of sense, because if I have to hoard all of the pentacles to myself, then that means that I don't think there are going to be more to come, right? So I have to keep whatever I have for myself. And so I agree with that. So that is, to me, the energy of the Four of Pentacles. So I've just been sort of thinking about those cards and been contemplating how I want to approach the development of those cards, how close to the source material I would like to get. I think the more we go into the numbers, some of them are probably going to be pretty close to the source material, and that's okay. Again, we're thinking about the new reader or someone who is any reader, but specifically the new reader, someone who is studying tarot and learning tarot, thinking about how they will use this card and interpret things based on their studies, based on their intuition and things like that. So with that, I think I just can foresee some of the cards being pretty close, right? Because I was thinking about things like the Six of Swords, which is a card that shows two people. Actually, I think it's three people. So one person driving a boat, two people in a boat. They're sort of facing outwards, and then these six swords in a boat, and it's as if they're leaving a situation going across the river, right? And so in my mind, when I think of the Six of Swords and I think about the Sword of Common Interpretation, that is the image that I see. So when it comes times for me to develop some of these cards, some of the number cards specifically, they will probably get pretty close to the source material. I am going to be thinking about how I can challenge those images and how I can reinterpret those baseline images, the baseline interpretations. So that is just sort of part of the process of creating a tarot deck. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But it is fun. I think that part is a whole lot of fun, and I'm thankful to sort of have the time and the motivation, which we all know motivation is just as fickle as it want to be. But I do have the time and the desire, I should say, to create and complete and to challenge myself to find new meaning and interpretation in a lot of these cards. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see how it fleshes out again, because again, if I can draw the cards ahead of time, right? Like we have the Three of Pentacles done ahead of time, then that'll make life a lot easier when it's time for me to color. Like I had this one pretty much drawn and nailed down. So by the time it's time to add flats or time to add details and things like that, then it's a whole lot easier to deal with, right? All right. So the next set of cards is going to be the fours. We're going to go right on in line with the numbers. Now, in terms of cards that I have left, of course, I have all of the numbers, the rest of the numbers left. I do have the kings left to do in terms of the court cards. I do also have four major arcana cards. That is the sun, moon, star, and the chariot. Those four each I have worked on. At some point I have a whole lot of reject designs that I've tried, sort of ideas that I tried to implement for those that just did not work out or didn't look good or whatever the case was. So I've at some point worked on all of those. Even the kings I've worked on at some point. I just, for whatever reason, was having sort of creator's block behind them. So they may be some of the last cards that I do, unless the inspiration or the idea strikes. And then we'll maybe take a break from the numbers and work on some of those. We'll see. But yeah, those are the cards that I have left to do. So I think we're 36 in. This is the 37th card. So we have about 41 or so to do. This is going to be a standard 78 card deck. So it will follow the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition again, because that is a system that is widely researched and written about, and so it'll be very easy for the new reader to pick up. I do have plans for this after it launches for other things that I would like to work on. So we will see. I'll probably announce some of those as time progresses. I would love to do an oracle that goes with this. We'll see how that goes. All right. So these are the flats for the Three of Swords. So I think we are going to call this a live stream. So whether you are watching this live or the replay, I really, really appreciate you for being here. One of the easiest ways that you can support myself, this channel, and this live stream, even this deck, is to hit the thumbs up button. So please do me a favor. If you have not already, hit that thumbs up button. Thank you so much. Another way that you can support me as an artist and also pick up some of the cards and the images from the Cosmic Gateways Tarot and books and journals and all of those kinds of things is to visit my website, blewisarts.com. There is a link down in the description, because right now until the 17th, there is a 20% off sale. So all things in my shop are currently 20% off. No free shipping there, but there's a nice discount on those. So for instance, if you get a poster print, let's say for instance you like strength and you want to get a 11x17 strength print, it goes from I think $29.99 down to $23, and plus shipping of course. And so those usually ship out next day. The only things that take a little bit of time to ship is the canvas prints, and that's because those are actually printed and manufactured to order. So I don't have those laying around. You know what I mean? I don't have those in stock. So whenever you purchase a canvas print, the canvas print that you are getting is freshly made, ready to hang just for you. So I appreciate you all for doing that. Have a great and happy, prosperous week, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there who are celebrating Mother's Day today. And I hope you all have a great rest of the day. So until next time, peace.